Okay, we're up here in Crestone, Colorado. It's so beautiful, gorgeous, beautiful. And I've been wanting to do this Law of One video for a while, so I figured this was a great place to do it. I have a ton of pictures I'll be sharing, through the next couple weeks and stuff too. But so the Law of One, as I've been encouraged to really kind of dive into this more and work on embodiment with this concept and idea, really requires a dropping of the ego. And once you get into this perspective that I'm about to talk about, you can't really have an ego if you want to integrate it. And what I mean by ego is the concept or idea that you're separate from source, because you're not. And we hear this all the time. Like, I've been hearing this forever, and I understand it intellectually. But in my mind, there was like maps and ideas and images and thoughts that weren't really the big picture on what it actually is. And so this idea requires you to really kind of expand. That's that is the whole point of experience, is expansion. It's like forgetting who you are so you can find your way back. And that's the dualities here to help us to have greater range of experience, and not as individuals but as source. So for a long time I really perceived source as being basically the hub, the central creation point, the 0 point field of all creation. And so that's what source is, and that's why we're all linked energetically, is because we are all source fractals, which is true, but there's a greater picture here. So time and space doesn't really exist. We have multi-dimensional reality, multi-dimensions. We have the density ranges, matter. The further you get away from source, if you think of it as time and space, which is honestly the easiest way to think about it, initially is conceptualizing the 0 point field, source energy, the primordial sound fields, the 7 rays, density ranges to the 7th, and then 7th to 1. 1 being the furthest, except for in this universe, which we're in the inverted universe, so it's actually even further from source. So everything is created from source, which means everything is source, because that's all there ever was at one point, which means that's all there ever could be. But basically what I was shown is that we are all basically thought forms of source. We are, like, our energy fields are us through multiple dimensions, higher range of frequencies, and our thoughts, our beliefs all move into this energetic system. And that's what we encompass, is the whole energy system, not just our physical bodies. Source is the same thing. So source is the infinite creator, the being at the center of all this, which is beyond. It's not a man or a woman. It's energy, source. And all things are within that one source as light, as thought forms. So we are essentially a passing thought, a thought form of source, an idea, and we're just light that turns on and off and on and off, at a physical level, at a spiritual level. And that would encompass kind of the base of the Law of One. And we get into matter, it's like another dimension down. So our souls that know we're one with this source chose to incarnate into a denser reality to deepen the experience even more. And that's kind of what we're dealing with now, is the physical 3D reality. So the more you expand your consciousness, you begin to touch these higher frequency ranges and these higher dimensional concepts and ideas, and really begin to integrate this idea that we're just an idea of source. But so your ego really has to go as far as what this physical vessel, being, mind, idea wants per se, because you're a creation of source. On that same note, you are also source. You're the one that created you. Okay? So it's the lower self, ego, really has to dissolve to be able to integrate this reality. And it changes the meaning of divine will. Because when you go, well, I am a creation of source or the divine, then of course you would want the divine to navigate for you. It's like, what is a good example? I can't think of one right now, but yeah, so allowing the divine will to come in and work through you, connecting to that energy, allowing that to integrate, to move you with total trust that that is also you. You just don't remember. Instead of, beating against the brick wall and swimming upstream, it changes the dynamic quite a bit, and it's a really beautiful way to perceive it. So basically, outside of time and space, you just have source that exists, and everything, all the dimensions, all the density ranges, all life, all creation, all angelic beings, all mystical creatures, all everything that's ever been creative, thought of, experienced, is all within this mind space of source. Okay? And we have the photonic reality as well, which is, photons are essentially the electromagnetic spark of light, right? And so we are activating photons. Consciousness essentially is activating photons throughout time and space. Our movement in time and space isn't really movement through time and space. It's actually an activation of photonic light. So like light doesn't necessarily travel. It activates photons through time and space. So it looks like it's traveling, but it's actually just an activation process. And that's how we are, and how we can be perceived in this one mind, is an activation of one point, and then it activates other photons to create the concept or idea of space and time. And yeah, so the mind, the source field is basically a mind, thought forms. There's no emotion in the higher realms, not like we have that. The emotion, I believe, is basically something that we have acquired as humans. I mean, animals have emotions as well, but as a physical being, to help us to empathize, to have compassion, because that's how we find our way back to the divine. That's how we find our way back to source. If we're all in our heads, our energy's up here, and we are just the mind only, we can't actually precipitate. It's the mind creates, the heart animates. That's how we create in this reality, is through emotion. These have to be harmonized though, because if the mind is separate from the heart, then the heart can't actually animate the mind, and they're not harmonic. But ultimately from the source space, because the source is love, so anything it creates comes from that space of love. It doesn't have that. That is also the duality. The dualistic reality is the separation of mind and heart. So when we harmonize that and bring that back into unity and oneness, then we can harmonize with the divine. And that's the remembrance. That's the process of remembering and stepping back into who we are, which is source. And we are creating our realities and who we are at the ego level, the separated level. Us as source are creating this experience. So I hope I articulated that well and moved through everything I needed to. But you know, it's one of those concepts that's kind of hard to speak about and have it make a lot of sense, because really it's, when you get down to it, it's really outside of our ability to understand. I think it's a lot larger than that, but this is what it was shown, and I've been sitting with this for over a month now. Just you know, my guides have been like, you need to integrate this. How do you integrate this information? How do you live this in this capacity? And it really comes down to understanding that you're a creation of your highest expression of self, which is source. We all are, and we are all that being. More like that being is all of us, and that's where we come from. And there is no hierarchy, there is no good or bad or right or wrong in the space, because it's all just an experience coming from us. So really, really fascinating stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. And, you know, as I learn and grow and dive into this more, I'll continue to share. Anyway, sending you guys so much love, and really, really beautiful space here. It's crazy to think about, you know, how hard it is to maintain energy and frequencies in cities. You come out somewhere like this and it's like, I can just be and not have to perpetually purify and cleanse and clear my space and my mind and my heart, and just being in this environment is really an amazing opportunity. So we're enjoying it fully. So anyways, I hope you guys are well, and sending you so much love.